McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
Welcome along to our little nighttime soiree. Let's spare a thought for the people who are in the middle of Hurricane Milton. And it's not just a hurricane, there's tornadoes as well, which is quite unusual. Florida don't get that many tornadoes. Of course, Tornado Valley is nowhere near there. But they do get a lot of hurricanes. But this, they say, and by the way, they've been wrong in the past, so hopefully they're wrong this time, is a Category 5 and the worst hurricane in 100 years. What was the... Hurricane Andrew was the big one there about 20 years ago. Do you remember that one? And it levelled a whole town called Homestead. If you remember that, a lot of people were killed and a lot of people left homeless. But this is a really unusual hurricane, if you're interested in the whole story of it, because normally when hurricanes come from Florida, they come from the direction of the Caribbean. And they come up either the coast and kind of Florida kind of gets in the way and kind of gets a little bit of it. And it goes up along the coastline, as it did last week in North Carolina. But this one started off in the Gulf of Mexico and it's moving across towards the Atlantic, which is really unusual. So it's moving right across the centre of Florida. So the height of the hurricane would be right in the middle of Florida. For those of you go on holidays to Disney World, to Orlando, Orlando is normally safe from hurricanes because it's inland. But at this time around, this hurricane is going straight across the centre of Florida, right across Tampa, St. Pete's, Orlando, across to Cocoa Beach on the other side. So those places that you would visit while you're on holidays in Florida will all be hit badly. Hopefully, earlier on today it went down to a Category 4, but they have actually said it's now a Category 5 again. So hopefully they get it wrong, or hopefully they are wrong. I saw one meteorological guy on Fox or CNN, I can't remember where he was, and he was explaining how, you know, the pressure works for a hurricane, etc., etc. He started crying in the middle of giving the report. That's how serious he believes this is going to be. So they believe it'll be the worst hurricane possibly in American history. I mean, that's incredible. So our thoughts with all the people in Florida. What I thought was disgusting, by the way, is that there's price gouging going on. So all the gas stations have run out, or petrol stations as we call them, have run out of petrol because people are evacuating and nobody can get petrol to get out. So people are trying to get inland if they can into Orlando and places like that, which would be the centre, which may not be quite as bad because obviously once these things make landfall, they tend to dissipate a little bit. But what's happening is a lot of people are heading to, say, Relations in New York or wherever it is and getting flights out at the last minute out of Orlando International Airport. And the airlines are price gouging. So what they're doing is doubling and tripling the cost of the price. Imagine doing that in the middle of a catastrophe. Like, that is outrageous. There's a whole political scene going on at the moment. Kamala Harris, by the way, who we haven't seen for 3.5 years, is pretending, of course, you know, that she's been involved all along. Governor Ron DeSantis wants nothing to do with her. But he has said that Joe Biden has been extremely helpful, although he does say that enough hasn't been given to Florida over the years in relation to storm damage. Because Florida does get hit on a regular basis, you know, with Category 2 and 3 hurricanes. It's quite common. That's what they call it, the hurricane season. But look, our thoughts are with all the people. Hopefully, as I said, it'll decategorise over the next couple of hours. It's due to make landfall in Tampa in and around 2 o'clock in the morning, our time. So they are expecting 15-foot swells. That means that if you're anywhere near the coast, the sea will rise by 15 foot. So if you're at sea level and you're living in a house, that's good enough to get it up to the middle of the second story of the house. So that is catastrophic. I seen one guy on TikTok, which I think human beings are incredible people, right? When I say incredible, nasty people. There's one guy on TikTok, and he said that God has told him to stay there, and he's on a boat in the bay in Tampa, which is going to be the worst hit part, and he's going to leave it in the lap of the gods. And they're now taking bets on TikTok as to whether he'll die or not. I mean, that's how crazy the world is. That's how bad social media has become. It's a million reasons as to why things like TikTok should just not exist. There is talks, by the way, that's another topic we must do some night. There are talks about banning TikTok in the United States because experts are now saying TikTok is like a drug. It's a digital drug. And it is. We just heard Stephen Donnelly, by the way, on the news. A little bit of an update on the Children's Hospital. So for the 14th time, they've now given a date again for the children. My, great-grandchildren might eventually get to go to that hospital, by the way. 14th time, he says it should be accepting its first patient by the end of next year. I don't believe it. It will not happen. This is the 14th time they have given a date or a time. Now he's saying, look, it's not up to me, it's up to BAM. That's the time, so let's just go with that. It won't happen. It'll be 2026, possibly 2027, I imagine, the way things are going at the moment. There's one particular room, for example, somebody had mentioned to me, it had been refitted 7 times. The absolute waste of taxpayers' money is incredible. Also, just finally, before we get into the topic, of course, there's a spy in Ireland. Is the latest. I'm surprised there isn't more memes going around, by the way. But it seems we've established that there may be a Russian spy in the Oireachtas, or even in the Dáil. We don't know. So what really became comical today is when Timmy Dooley stood up in the Oireachtas and he said about the Russian spy who's now nicknamed or codenamed Cobalt. And everybody wants to know who the spy is. It's like something from the 1950s from a movie, isn't it? The spy who came in from the cold. Anyway, Timmy Dooley says, just to establish, I am not the Russian spy. And I'd like every other member of the Oireachtas to say the same thing and to admit they are not the... And I said, are they really going to do this? Are they all really going to start standing up and saying, I'm not the spy? So a load of them did. They all got up and they said, I'm not the spy. But it seems that now, we don't know how true this story is. Seemingly it was leaked from a Russian agency. Is there actually who could be the spy? I mean, somebody said to me his name, and Ryan, they'd never keep him awake long enough. He couldn't be the spy. No, who could be the spy? The Russian spy. Anyway, look, the Russians are dangerous, as we know, because they like to control the world and infiltrate the world with information. Anyway, we'll get around to that. Well, no, we won't get around to that later on. We don't want you all guessing who the spy is. Anyway, there's a story in the Irish Times, which is an interesting one, an email from somebody who's pregnant for a second time. And, they're talking about the whole stigma around being pregnant and being in employment. And I'm wondering, does pregnancy still have a big impact on women's employability? Because there was research done going back about, 7 or 8 years ago, I remember covering it, about a recruitment agency in the United Kingdom who, when, companies were coming and saying, like, we need a secretary, we need this, we need that, we need the other, they were kind of saying to them, listen, we don't want any women of, childbearing age. So in other words, don't be sending us women with engagement rings on, somewhere between the age of 20 and 30 years of age, because most likely at some point they're going to be going off for maternity leave, so we don't really want them. Now they couldn't say that publicly, obviously, or on the book, because that would be illegal. But do you think pregnancy, or the idea that women have a womb and just get pregnant, does that have a problem? Does it have a problem when it comes to employing women in certain types of jobs, particularly? In larger companies, it's probably not a huge problem because they can absorb the impact of maternity leave. But in smaller companies where you've only got 3 or 4 employees, that can be a huge problem. We'll get around to that. But first, the Education Minister, Norma Foley, she's been in the news a lot lately, hasn't she? Has acknowledged that school divestment programmes have yielded very small results. Let me explain. The government has a commitment of having 400 multi-denominational primary schools across Ireland by 2030. But today, Foley said this figure stands currently at 174. Having said that, 51 of the 52 new primary schools established since 2011 are multi-denominational, while 45 of the 51 post-primary schools established since then are also multi-denominational. Multi-denominational means, obviously, no particular emphasis on religion or a particular religion. However, attempts to divest Catholic primary schools have proved slow, with just 20 schools changing from religious to multi-denominational ethos over the last decade. There's no surprise there. They don't want to give up their ethos, their Catholic ethos. There's a board. Usually there's a board in a school. There'll always be a priest on the board. Usually the parish priest will be on the board or something like that. And years ago, I don't know if they still do it or not, the priest would come around every now and again into the school and check that the ethos has been adhered to, the Catholic ethos. As of 2021, the national total the school total in Ireland is 3,126 standard schools. 2,760, 88% are Catholic patronage. So the vast majority are Catholic patronage. Only 1 in every 10 or so are multi-denominational or of other religion. As a result, the Department of Education will undertake a national survey of parents to determine what kind of education they want for their children. So this is where we're asking you. We're taking our little survey tonight. The survey will extend to parents of children at preschool, but we'll move on then to primary school and secondary school as well. So what sort of education do you want for your children? Do you want your education to be religious ethos? Now, remember, of course, you don't have to be Catholic to want your child to go to a Catholic school. Because in Britain, for example, Catholic schools have the longest waiting list. And the reason is because they believe children perform better in them and they grow up with better morals, whether you're religious or whether you're not. And I'm going to have to say, to some degree, I agree with that. All my children went to a Catholic school, but they wouldn't be Catholics. When I say they wouldn't be Catholics, they're, I suppose, officially Catholics, but they don't go around talking about God and Jesus. So what I'm saying is, but they teach and instill good morals. So is it wrong to suggest that we should remove the patronage altogether? Because that is the future, isn't it? They want to remove the patronage altogether. Where, similar to the United States, there will be no patronage in any public schools. In the United States, it's illegal for a public school to teach one particular religion or to have one particular ethos. So I want to know what you think. Do you think we should remove the patronage or divestment of schools from Catholic patronage? Let me know what you think. Should we separate the church and education? Simple, isn't it? The number, by the way, is 087 188 0008. Or maybe you believe the Catholic Church and religion brings something positive to schools in Ireland. I want to know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. Sharon, hi, how are you?
Good now, thank you.
Good. If you're planning on using the Children's Hospital, which you probably never will be, unless it's for grandchildren, you should be in it by about 2027.
Oh, God. It just rolls on and on, doesn't it?
It's actually, if it wasn't so serious, it'd be funny, to be honest with you. You know? Anyway, and even when it does open, to be honest with you, I hate to go into this topic, it's in the wrong place. It should have never been built there. It's in a ridiculously stupid place. But however, that's the government for you.
I know.
Yeah, the planning, you know as well as I do. Planning down at Dublin Civic Office down there in the Keys. I'm sure it's in the basement somewhere. It's like pin the tail on the donkey, you know? Where will we build the hospital? Okay, but somebody put a blindfold on me. Give me a map of Dublin. Just, there you go. Put it there.
It's shocking what they're getting away with.
Oh, yeah. Ridiculous.
And the spy in the government.
A spy.
Holy God.
A Russian.
I've heard it all now.
he don't just say a spy. Give him his proper code name. It's Cobalt. Cobalt.
Well, if he's Irish, he won't be much of a spy, will he?
No, you know what? I was just thinking that we were talking about this earlier. We were saying an Irish spy. You know the Irish people, they can't hold their piss. You know what I mean? He'd be a useless spy.
Yeah.
Because he'll slip up, he'll be in the doll and he'll go, yes, comrade. I mean, thank you, my friend. Yeah. Anyway, back to the schools. Sharon, would it be a good idea to remove the Catholic patronage?
Well, I would be more in favour of, teaching every religion, a certain amount of it. Yeah, if you're going to remove the Catholic patronage, then just have a general class where all faiths are taught, like the Buddhist values are very good.
Yeah.
All different. As we know, religion is a division it's caused all the trouble in the world. But just to teach them about the different faiths and morals, and then,
Well, then you are. Well, then you're
on.
agreeing with the Minister for Education, because multi-denominational. That's exactly what multi-denominational is. It's basically just teaching theology, which is the history of different religions, and not dealing with education through a particular ethos.
Yeah, look. I believe in God, okay?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, that's good.
And for me, and the reason I do is because when I look at the beauty and perfection of nature, of animals, of children, I think, how could that be so perfect? It just seems to me that we'd be daft to think that there isn't something, so powerful that had a hand in the creation of the world.
Okay.
I don't believe a lot of what's in the Bible, but something just says to me that it wasn't just a big bang. And even scientists are starting to have an open mind about it now.
Yeah, look, I don't believe that, but I do have a huge respect for people who do believe that, because it is. You are right. The world around us is very complex. Even the human body, the eye, is a very complex thing. You'd wonder how that could evolve. But according to the scientists, it did. But look, people believe in a God or a higher power, and I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, it's something I feel, Niall. It's something I've kind of tested over the years, and when I put my intention, now you could say it could be me, it could be my higher self, but it's something I've kind of tested out, and I've felt that certain things have come into my life. It's almost as if someone knew that's exactly what I needed, if that makes sense.
So do you believe that would be a benefit? That would be Catholicism or the Christianity. Do you believe that would be of benefit to children to have that ethos, that moral ethos in their lives in school?
A moral ethos, yes, and to hear about people's different experiences and to explore. They have to explore for themselves and come to their own conclusion, which can only happen, over time, kind of as they get older.
Would it be a bad thing to remove religion completely from schools?
I hate to say it, but I don't see a lot of people taking communion and stuff seriously. I mean, any of the communions I've attended, I would always mention God, and this might sound a bit to some people, but they can say what they want, but I always liked to remind them what it's really all about. And I'd get some very blank looks. Now, I know not everybody's like that, but it's a case of, we better do their communion just in case, or so they can have a nice day. It's like it's not taken seriously. I took my confirmation very seriously, and I felt I was strengthening something in myself. And my parents were going through a separation at the time, so it was a very tough time. And it was a real comfort to me to feel I was being strengthened in some way.
Yeah.
And that I would have some things, someone to lean on as life got difficult. Things come and go. And thankfully life has worked out really, really well for me now. Well,
I'm glad you're out the other side, as they say. Well, we'll stay there for a second. Let me just bring Jason in too. Jason, hi, how are you?
Good evening, Niall. How are you?
Well,
a quick one.
Yeah,
Sorry, a quick one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be gas if the Irish boy was one of the Healy Rays? I know that, but a smile to your face. I tell you, I think that's Russian, that man is speaking down there.
Could you imagine Michael Healy Ray as a spy with his cap on him? I like there, comrade.
Well, he does talk out of both sides of his mouth, in fairness.
You're dead right. He does.
I can't imagine him learning Russian, but there you go.
And here on the hospital thing, you see, BAM put in an invoice for 25 million to redo something. It turned out it was only meant to be 250,000.
And nobody probably even noticed. Yeah.
Clerical error.
Yeah, but here's the thing: somebody probably signed off on it and didn't even check anyway.
No, they did. No. They did. They knew. They knew it was wrong, and they still sent it in. And somebody quizzed it today, and one of them are Rockers committees.
25,2,500. It should have been wow.
250,000.
Yeah. So obviously they just moved the decimal point by mistake. Yeah. Okay.
By mistake, yeah. A couple of decimal points to the left.
Anyway, Jason, getting back to Catholic patronage in schools. Is it time? Look, they've been talking about this for 10 years. I can go back to Rory Quinn, who was a famous Irish Minister for Education, who was also atheist, I believe. But he had always planned to remove, the Catholic patronage or ethos from schools and from education. And he said it would be done in the next few years. Now, it never happened. But the Minister for Education is saying today, it's a very slow movement. But is it a good thing that the patronage is still there?
Yeah, I think it is, man. I mean, look, you said it yourself, okay? Some of the hardest schools and the best schools to get into in England are Catholic schools. America's the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't get into them, that way. I mean, there's a reason for it. They teach good. They do. They teach good ethics. I think they do. And, I mean, why? They're going to phase out eventually over here, Nedley. I mean, just go to any church, right? The numbers are fizzling out. All right. So I think it's going to do it. It's going to do it itself. I think the government are just trying to push it, but they want to be careful because, I mean, the people could push back. This just seems to be like they're just, again, chipping away at what it is to be Irish. Mm. I mean, to me, that's what it comes across. You know me, I'll be very conservative in my views. I don't go around beating a cross and dragging it around me, but, I mean, you don't have to do that to be a Christian. I mean, you don't have to constantly go around screaming God is great. We're not that type of religion.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
I mean,
but it probably is. I mean, if you go back 20 years ago, the Catholic religion in schools was quite dogmatic. Kids were forced to do their prayers in the morning, constantly talking about God all day. That doesn't. Well, when I say forced, they were told that doesn't. They don't really do that now, do they?
Well, I mean, a lot of governments still do prayers before they go.
Oh no, they do. They still do the prayer before the doll every day, don't they?
Before the doll.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we trying? I mean, that's just. I have no problem with educate together. No problem with build as many of them as you want. But why take away our schools? I mean, you must remember when we got our independence from the Brits. I mean, who educated us? Who were the only ones to educate us? Who were the only ones to educate us while we were under occupation? Was the Christian Church with the hedge schools? I mean, and then when there was no money in this country. I mean, Niall, you come from this. We all know your love of the church. You don't have one. I know you're respectful to people that do have a faith, and I like that about you. That just goes to show there is still a bit of Christianity in you, pal. But I mean, I only ever had good things to say about them. I mean, I grew up next door to 16 months. They owned the two houses beside my mum's.
But they have got their dark history as well, Jason.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Niall. I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Any big institution does. Any big institution has its dark secrets. I could list them off. You know what I mean? The army, the guards, they all have dark secrets where they treated lesser people than them or weaker people than them disgraceful. I mean, just look what's coming out about the army, about how they treated females. So I mean, England's the same. I mean, they're all.
I'm not saying that the Catholic Church had exclusivity and bad behaviour because they didn't.
No, they don't. I mean, they don't. But I mean, they've done a lot of good for this country as well. I mean, when nobody had nothing in this country, they were there. I mean, Ireland was a different place.
And what's
for the good and the bad? Sorry, Noel, for the good and the bad.
Okay, so let me answer me a question. What's special about sending your kids to a school that has a Catholic ethos? So what do you believe the advantage to you is?
I think there's more structure. I just think there's more structure. I think these other schools, they're just so, everything is okay and everything, you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want, you can do. I mean, I just don't believe in that. I've read a lot of kids, as you know. I've done very well with me first four, and it's because of the way they were brought up.
What happened with your second four?
I'm in the middle of doing it.
I was going to say, did you not do as well with those ones, no?
Well, I don't know yet because they're from 14 down to 5, so I mean, it's a work in progress. But it is a lot harder, Niall. It is a lot harder with these four because of what's out there now. Yeah. I mean, the education is totally different. The sex education is driving me up the wall. I don't know what to expose them to. I mean, before their age. I mean, we all know we wouldn't trust the government to run a bat, but yet we are letting them educate our kids. And, I mean, they're even telling their kids not to tell their parents what they're learning.
Well, I know, I heard that.
So what does that tell you, Niall? I mean, the last time kids were told to keep secrets from their parents, look what happened in this country.
I don't know, and that was a suggestion. I don't know exactly what the truth involved in that is in relation to a teacher training course, but this idea that you can keep a secret from your parents and just tell your teacher, that's wrong. But I don't want to get too deep in that. We can do that another night. We can talk about sex education the other night. But generally, in relation to Catholic patronage, and I'm assuming, Sharon, you would agree with what Jason is saying, there's more structure to it, you believe?
Yes, yeah, I do agree there is.
Okay, hang on. Let me go to Joe as well. Joe, hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Niall. I'm actually surprised that Leo Varadkar hasn't been revealed as the spy, given the fact that he does more leaks than anything else. Now, that would be sensational, wouldn't it?
Can we all stop guessing who the spy might be? That's my fault. I started that.
Yeah. It's a bit like the Dallas 1980 when everybody was talking about who shot
I'm pretty sure there's going to be T-shirts and memes going around. Who's the spy in the doll?
No, we have to run a bookies. We have to run a bookies here now. We have to get some odds.
I'm wondering if Paddy Barrett's taking bets on it at this stage. Yeah, who's Cobalt?
There's they take a bet on two flies fucking running up a wall.
Yeah, can I just say, by the way, because somebody suggested today that the spy might be in the media, so I never throw my name in the hat here, okay, comrades? I'm not the spy. So, Joe, getting back to Catholic patronage in schools, is it a good thing? Is it a positive thing? Or is it something that may be negative that we need to remove at some point?
Well, I don't agree with removing it, Niall. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think children have gained from it over the last, God knows, thousands, hundreds of years, like, you know. And I don't see anything wrong with it being taken away. Why would you? Like, I know people have their views on the Catholic Church, and that's understandable. But, like, you know, it never done anyone any harm in the past, so why would it do any harm now? I think there's an agenda going on here now.
Well, some people will argue that it has done damage in the past. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but some people will argue that, people who grew up in the Catholic patronage would have a different outlook on life in relation to, homosexuality, in relation to marriage, in relation to sex, in relation to marriage before or sex before marriage, contraception, all those things that the church have quite dogmatic views on. So they would say, well, we don't need those in school anymore. We don't need children growing up with those views.
Well, with respect, and I'm not having to go at you, Niall, and I certainly wouldn't do that, but I tell you, would you want your child to be taught about Muhammad and about the kind of stuff that goes on there with the Muslim?
Well, yeah, but my child was a Muslim, I would, yeah. But my child's not a Muslim. But if my child was a Muslim, I would be quite happy to have my child thought about Muhammad.
Right. Oh, but that's okay. That's your view, and I accept that.
Well, no, but I'm just saying if my child was a Muslim, but my child is not a Muslim.
Oh, yeah. I know. I understand that, Niall, of course.
Sorry,
but
Niall.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Niall.
Yeah.
This, a lot of this, I'd say, is down to this forced multiculturalism as well that's being forced upon us. I mean,
I totally agree.
There's a lot of kids coming in now that aren't of a Christian background. Okay, they're not going to have them in the Catholic schools because we all know.
Well, they are in it. I mean, there's all religions in Catholic schools now.
Yeah, but now that there's so much of the class now being separated now for the likes of communions, confirmations, religious studies, and all, I'd say now the pressure's on them now that. They haven't.
It's getting complicated, is what you're saying to me. It's getting complicated.
It's very complicated. They don't have the money to build enough schools as quick as they want to. So what's the best way? Let's force the religion out.
So let's let's neutralise the problem, is what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But can you imagine going over to a Muslim country, forcing us on their population and telling them they have to change everything? They have to change their mosques. They have to rename their holy days. They can't do this, they can't do that. And now your schools just can't teach you as a religion. In user schools, which your religion is paid for, now we have to split it up because this wave of people are coming in now. And we have to accommodate them. So we're going to take everything that's Irish away from you. So you won't recognise this country in 50 years' time.
Joe, do you think it'll be a sad day when religion is removed from schools completely?
I think it will, Niall. I think it will be the end of traditional Ireland traditional Ireland is kind of gone anyway, but it'll probably be the real end of Irish traditionalism. And I don't want to see it happen because I am worried about the future of this country now, given the fact that we've sold our soul to the devil on many occasions.
We've sold our soul to the devil. Right.
Yeah. Well, sure, look,
that'll end up on a promo now. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, we have, because look at the amount of damage that our government have done and our politicians. They're giving the EU too much power now to run the roughshod over us. And I don't want to be taking orders from the likes of Ursula von der Leyen or any of her muppets over in Brussels.
Well, unfortunately, you're stuck with taking orders. 80% of our laws come from Europe.
Well, half the laws are a load of crap, as you know.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that, now, to be honest with you. Listen, I have to go to a break, lads. Sinead and Fiona, I'll be with you straight after the break, I do promise. Sorry about that. Thank you very much indeed, Joe. And Jason, if you want to give us a quick call, you can. You can text or WhatsApp at 087 188 0008. We're asking, do you agree that the Catholic patronage, or the divestment programme as they call it, should be removed from Irish schools? Would you be happy to see that? Sinead, just wait there for a second. I'll be with you in a moment. Fiona, let me just go to you first. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting so long. I do apologise.
No bother, Niall, because to be honest with you, they were very great speakers tonight.
Yeah,
I have to say, and they hit a great point. They did.
Okay, so you from my memory, you've been on before. You're a Christian. And
I am.
Yeah, okay. So would it disappoint you to see the Catholic patronage? Because 88% of Irish schools, the 3,126 public standard schools, are of Catholic patronage. It's a bit unfair if, say, you're an atheist and you don't want your kids to attend a Catholic school, isn't it? Because you won't find one that's secular, if you know what I mean.
To begin with, we were Irish Catholic country, and like the bigger plan, we're becoming a big city now in Europe. Ireland is like a big city in Europe. Mm-hmm. So we must take away all the Irish habits, ways, and even now the religion. That's what it's looking like.
But
And
it would be fair to
listening
say the religion
Jason
is...
and that lady, like, they want us to give up our children's sacraments. You must remember now, our holy sacraments to a Catholic are very important. So we don't want to give them away. We've already given away our rainbow. Now, I thought God gave the rainbow to all of us, not just the gay society. I thought the rainbow was for all of us to remind us the world would never again be flooded. Have a bit of faith. And the other side of it, what I do not like, being a Catholic, I'm getting my points out tonight, that we must refer to these people in a plural manner, which I cannot do without throwing a bucket of holy water over my head.
Oh, my.
Because plural, to call someone a plural, is the dark side in our Bible. Now, that's a true Catholic speaking, Niall. I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm not here to damn my own soul. But this is my spirituality, that God is in us all. Every single one of us is in us all. That's the good side of us. Anything that's bad in us is the dark side. So we try, as a Catholic religion, to keep on the good side all the time and keep your spirituality at a good high level.
But here's the thing.
That's all we want. We just want to be left alone to say our prayers. Let our children do their holy
sacrament. But I want you to be left alone.
We're becoming like we're dirty now.
Okay.
It's a mortal sin.
Okay, but Fiona, hold on a second. Hang on. I want you to be left alone to do what you want to do. And I respect your belief in God. I don't have to believe in God to respect your belief in God, right? And I respect your belief in God. I have absolute respect for it. But when you say to somebody who doesn't believe in God, who has maybe 2 children, and they want to send their kids to a school that doesn't have a Catholic ethos or doesn't teach religion and the belief in God and Jesus Christ, and they don't really have a choice because every school local to them is a Catholic school.
But we're not teaching them anything dirty.
I'm not saying you
We're
are.
not teaching them anything obnoxious or out of character, what we would think would be absolutely too far out there for our children. No, they want our children to be reading these things that offend me as a 50-year-old woman, a grandmother.
Well, some of the stuff I've seen offend me, and I'm not even religious. You know what I mean? So, but hang on, Fiona, just stay there because I
religious. God is in us all now. There's as much God in me as there is in you. Okay, and that is the truth. I may never get up there. You might get up there. I may never get up there. But I'll try in my life. I will try.
Well, if I get up there, I'll keep a place for you, Fiona. I promise.
Do, please. You might throw down a
So, Fiona, stay there. And Sinead, please stay with me. I know Michael only has a minute because he's on his break there. Michael, sorry, go ahead. What do you want to say? Very quickly.
Hi, Niall. I have an experience in both, sort of, because I'm 21 now, and I went through secondary school at a non-denominational, and I was in primary school, and it was Catholic, and I don't think that we should be taking religion out of schools. To be honest, I think it's wrong.
So which was the better experience? You've experienced both. Well, I mean, maybe you don't remember the younger experience.
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think secondary schools, it matters that much. I don't think they listen anyway. But it's important in primary schools, in my opinion, because it's the teachings and the morals that, you get from that. It's really important, I think, that we're taking away from, kids growing up today.
And why did you go to a non-denominational school? Was obviously your parents' choice to send you?
Just because it was parents' choice, and I was supposed to go to a different one. It was close at the time, But,
okay.
Yeah,
so it's convenience. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I understand the point at the start about, America doesn't have it. But it's apples and oranges, really, comparing the two, because, American culture changes all the time. It's a melting pot. It always has been.
Irish culture is becoming like that too. We're a very diverse society, particularly Dublin.
That's the question. There's always an ever-changing, picture of an American man, but there's always one Irish man. You're never going to... An Irish man doesn't change, if you know what I mean. And we have... And I think taking all of our culture, our moral standings on things, especially teaching, the youth, I think it's wrong. I think it's a bad direction we're going in, to be honest.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that when I've seen some of the stuff that they want to teach them in SPHE recently. Some of that stuff is bonkers.
I have to say, no, I actually did support your campaign. I was, I thought you were brilliant. I was actually shocked you didn't get in, but...
Well, thanks very much, Michael. I appreciate it. Michael, stay there because Sinead's been waiting ages as well, and I want to keep if you want to stay there, you can, and Fiona too. I'll come back to you in a second. Sinead.
No bother.
Hi, Sinead. How are you?
Hi, Niall. How are you?
Now, it says on my screen Australia. Are you in Australia?
No, I'm actually home for a holiday.
Oh, all right, okay.
As strange as that sounds.
I don't know what the story is in Australia. Is there a Catholic patronage in Australia, or Christian patronage in the schools? There's no patronage in the schools, is there?
I'm actually I'm an SNA, so LSO in Australia, and I've had the pleasure of working in both the Catholic school and government school.
Okay.
So a non-denominational school.
Okay, so all the government public schools are non-denominational, private schools will be Catholic, I assume. That's what you're
Private schools,
yeah.
Well, yeah, but there'd be different tiers. So you can get a private school that is cheaper Catholic, and then you can get the more expensive ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I found over there is looking at our schools, the Catholic schools, they're not Catholic. They teach the religion, but you don't have the connection that we would have traditionally had with the church. We don't have that anymore. So I don't see the point in having it in the school. Going back years ago when I was living here and my kids were deciding to do, or when they were meant to be doing their communion and confirmation, I gave them the choice. And my first son, when he was going doing it, we had a Spanish child living across the road from us. She knew an awful lot more about why she was making her communion than my son did. And my son's meant to be in a Catholic school. Yeah. And she was going to Catholic school one day a week. I think if the church want to get their beliefs out there and want to get people believing more in the Catholic Church, which I am Catholic, but getting more into it, they need to actually be involved in the school, and they're not. When my daughter actually did make her communion, the priest went through all the kids in the class. He named them all. My daughter has a very Irish name, and he got it wrong. He couldn't pronounce it because he didn't know her.
Yeah.
He'd never been into the school. He never met her until the day he was in there. I went to the Catholic, the communion in the Catholic school in Australia, and even though the priest, he had been in the school, he went through all the kids' names and he knew all of them, and I would have struggled with half the girls' names that were in this.
But see, the problem is, Sinead, in Ireland now at the moment, there are very few priests.
We don't have... Exactly.
There was a time, I remember when I was in school, back in the 1970s or... like in the 1960s up to the 1970s, there were a lot of priests. There was like 7 priests in our parish. So, there was always priests in and out of the school, checking with the teachers to make sure the ethos was being taught and coming in and giving a little lesson every now and again on Jesus and everything else. But that doesn't happen. Religion has been diluted anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's where the issue is at the moment, that we have all these schools in an area that are meant to be Catholic, but they're not because the priests can't get around to all of them. Whereas if we had the schools, the government schools that were non-denominational, and we had Catholic schools, like one in each area, the priests would be able to get around to them. And they'd be able to spend the time with the kids that really want to be part of
So what you're saying is the 3,126 schools that we currently have, 88% are Catholic, say take, 50% of them away, make them multi-denominational, and the rest then keep them as Catholic, but a more focused Catholic, if you know what I mean. Is that what you're saying?
A more focused, where people can actually learn what they need to learn. The people that want to really be fully engrossed in the Catholic religion can send their kids there, and everybody has the option. I don't know about this new...
That's not a bad idea.
This new program.
Oh, the SPHE program. Oh, Jesus.
I'm not really fully across that because I have been in Australia for the last 2 years.
You don't want to go there?
I agree with that from what I'm hearing.
Oh, you wouldn't want to go there. We'll have an hour. We'll have another hour to talk about it. You have no idea. It's bonkers. Anyway, and I'm not even religious. Fiona, that's not such a bad idea. That, with the 3,000 schools, to give people a choice, take 50% of them away. The government, you have a divestment program, take them away, make them non-denominational. And then the 50% that are left can be very focused. Just like if you want your kid to learn Irish, you send them to a girls' school. So, if you want your kid to be a Catholic, you send them to a Catholic school, but the Catholic schools would be very much focused on teachers who are Catholic or Christian and priests who will visit the schools.
I would agree with that. But, I don't believe in taking away the Catholic schools,
But you can't have it every way, Fiona.
Look, as the lady said, it's up to the government. If they want other schools for other religions and that, well, then maybe they have to start building.
Well, it's not even other schools for other religions. It's for people, according to the census, 48% of people don't consider themselves to be even religious. So it's for those who just don't want an ethos in the school. Michael, do you think Sinead's suggestion is a good one? I don't see anything too negative about that suggestion.
That we should have more denominational just to, accommodate.
Well, to accommodate people, but also to accommodate Catholicism and Christianity, because if you have less, you can focus more. I.e., when you've got 3,000 schools, it's very hard for priests, because we don't have any priests anymore, to get around to 3,000 schools.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, the priests won't know them, because, priests aren't going to have the time to do all the mass and stuff, and there's a big shortage.
Well, they did in my day. When I was in school.
No one wants to be priest anymore. They don't really, it's not a cool book anymore.
Yeah. Are you there? Sorry, are you there, Michael? I'm losing you there. Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. I just think that, Ireland is a Christian country. We're right now bearing the fruits of, hundreds of years of Christianity in this country. I don't see why we turn our back on that. We've had a bad past, of course, and we've had a few bad apples. And I think that's wrong, but at the same time, the values taught in Christianity, it's not about the believers, it's about the prophet. And
that's fine about the values, and you believe in all those values, as does Fiona. But hang on, but Michael, to be fair, and I have absolute respect, by the way, more so than I ever had, for people who are religious, because I believe in the morals of religion, the good morals of religion, right? But when you say, the teachings of the Catholic Church, people would argue, well, hold on for a second. The Catholic Church teaches you shouldn't have sex before marriage. I want my child to know all about relationships. The Catholic Church teach that, homosexuality is a sin. I don't want my child learning that. The Catholic Church teach abortion is wrong. I want my daughter to have a choice of reproductive choice when she gets older. So, I'm not saying that I agree with any of those things.
God gave us free will.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is just people might want that choice, Michael. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I want it.
The problem is, it's not about being a true believe in every single thing. There's this thing called cultural Christian, and you'll see all these, all these ex-big atheists and philosophers and all, and nowadays they're turned to cultural Christianity because they're done with this whole, like, if you remove Christianity or some sense of religion from people and what they believe in, something else to fill that place. And right now it's woke, culture, and it's in my view, it's worse. I think Christianity is the lesser of two evils, and to be honest, it's not perfect, and nothing's going to be perfect, but at the same time, we have to remember what's taking its place.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Wokeism has almost become a religion. Yeah. Sinead, I don't know what it's like in Australia currently at the moment, but I think Michael makes a good point. When you remove religion or remove Christianity, you end up with liberalism, and very powerful liberalism sometimes, that where anything goes. Is Australia feeling that at the moment?
I think that it's just because they're louder than the people that, there's a lot of people in Australia that don't believe in religion or don't believe in Christianity, don't believe in what we believe in. But they're still fantastic people, and they're not putting these woke ideas out everywhere that we should be using all these different terms and everything. But they're just living their life, and they're living their life like good Christians in Ireland would. They're living with the morals that we have as Christians, but they're just not Christians.
Well, I think that's what Michael mentioned, which is cultural Christian, our Christian culture. And by the way, even though I'm not a believer in God, I think I probably have Christian culture because I'm a conservative. So I probably have the same values. But stay there. Let me just bring Pauline as well in this. Pauline, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall. Yeah, I'm trying to pick up on what the guests were saying there. I missed the beginning. What did the minister say he'd do?
Oh, your phone is kind of breaking up, Pauline, a bit there, but go on. What did the minister say? Yeah, the minister is a bit disappointed that the divestment programme over the last decade has yielded small results, i.e. the majority of schools are still Catholic. She wants more schools to be secular.
Yeah, well, you see, that's why this gets back to all the people, and God bless them, that are coming into the country. They're all from different nationalities and different beliefs and whatever. And really, at the end of the day, that's the whole point. It's to break down the society. And so now what we're left with are people who want to practice their different faiths. I suppose this same minister has mapped out where the mosques and whatever are going to, and all the different temples or whatever are going to be built in the future. I don't know. But I do agree with one of your guests who said, when we take the morals out, like they did in America, they took the Bibles out of the schools and they were replaced with metal detectors. and and it goes on and on and on. We have to have.
Well, I hope we never get to that point. And by the way, America seems quite exclusive in that situation.
Well, let's make sure that we don't get to that point by not taking the Christian morals out of the schools to suit anybody, because predominantly our country is of Christian faith, whether it's Roman Catholic or otherwise, non-practicing or otherwise. Like you just said, it's kind of instilled in you. It's morally instilled in you. And we have to be very careful about that. So I do agree with your male guest that was speaking there.
I mean, I think what Sinead said has a lot of value. Because we have a huge lack of priests in Ireland now, and, it's very difficult to have a Catholic ethos in a school when the priests don't visit the school or don't have the time to be there, or we don't have enough teachers who would consider themselves to be Christian or identify as being Christian. Whereas if you reduce the amount of schools that are Catholic schools, you could focus very much more on those schools.
Yeah, there's so much going on, Niall, that I think it's going over people's heads. What they're doing is they're bringing in a one world religion. That is what they're doing, and they're breaking up society. That's what's happening, and it's happening before your eyes. But it's so gradual and slow, you're not noticing. Have you noticed the way the churches are all closed up at about 3:00 in the afternoon?
But that's that's because there's a lack of priests.
It's nothing to do with it.
It is. There's no priests are going now to be invested.
No, but now people. No, hold on. People.
There's some lovely priests, Fiona. But I think last year, I'll get AJ to check, but I think there was only one new priest last year. I mean,
but Niall,
they're all dying.
The churches were.
I've been to a couple of ordinations in the Latin.
I don't. I know I don't. There was one year there 2 or 3 years ago. There was no ordinations at all, and most of the priests, well, a lot of the priests are starting to die now. They're all old.
Yeah, but Niall, they're closing up the churches where the older people and some people who are at home, mothers at home and whatever, were able to pop into the church during the day. They don't want you doing that anymore as a Roman Catholic. They want us as a one-world religion.
Yeah, but Pauline, that's coming down to economics. When, the Catholic Church have a large church, say, I don't know, Whitehall, wherever it is, where you've got a nice big church, and you've only got one priest, and, your parishioners' numbers are dropping off like flies, because unfortunately that's what's happening with the Catholic Church with masses. The numbers have dropped so low. It's not financially viable to open after 3:00 in the afternoon. That's just what it is.
It doesn't cost them anything during the day the way it used to be.
It does. It costs money to keep the heating on and the lights on.
They don't keep the heating on. They
whatever.
Never did.
Well, keep the lights
but anyway,
on.
can I?
Yeah, sorry,
can
Sinead.
I just ask the
it's
other?
Very sad that we're adding up the prices of the church.
Yeah, sorry. Well, just one at a time. Sorry, Sinead, you want to say something there? Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to ask the other people that are on the lines. How many times in the last 6 months have they gone just to have a chat with their priest? Not confession, not anything like that, just a chat.
I'm not Roman Catholic, so.
Me, I haven't been to church in, I'd say, since
I'm not talking about church. Just talk to your priest. Church is different. I'm just saying, just go talk to your priest.
Yeah,
about what?
I don't talk to
anything. Just go and have a chat with the priest.
It wouldn't have been my local priest, but I would have spoke to priests. Yeah.
In the last 6 months, you have, yeah. I think the point Sinead is making. Sorry, go ahead, Sinead. You can make your own point.
No, we're meant to be traditionally Catholic country, and we're saying that they should be in the schools and everything. And I do agree with that. I think it should be in the schools, but there should be more of a choice in the government schools of non-Catholic. Like, I have relatives that are in Croatia, young girls in their 20s, cousins of my husband's, who think nothing of going down on a Friday evening and having a chat with their priest because he's there. And they feel part of the religion, and that makes more people feel like they
Christian Catholic schools.
Yeah.
I think that past the logistics and the priest aspect of it, I think that we need to look at why they want to do that. And we need to, as a country, decide, do we want that, And I don't really think it's a good thing. Past the whole, we don't have many priests, It's why are they doing it? They're doing it in every other country. And if you look at these other countries in Europe,
quickly, Michael, because I'm running out of time here. Sorry, Michael, I do apologize. I'm running out of time. Go on.
Yeah, we're taking away this cultural aspect of Ireland. Like, I think that we should just have Christian schools, keep the culture. It was going so well. Why are we trying to change everything now? I think that there's going to be a new wave of young people like me who want more Christianity in this country, because we're sick of all this wokeism and all this chaos. We don't want chaos anymore. And this country's getting very chaotic. And the government, for some reason, really want this country to get chaotic about things.
Okay, well, listen, Michael, unfortunately, I've run out of time. Sinead, Pauline, Fiona, Michael, thank you very much indeed. The vast majority of people who text in, surprisingly enough, want to keep the Catholic ethos in schools. And I don't think that's necessarily because they're all Christians, by the way. But I think people are concerned that liberalism maybe can go too far, and the only thing that will hold that off is the morals of Christianity. Maybe that's what they believe. I'm just surmising that's what people believe, particularly over the last few months when we have seen some of the stuff that's been suggested that be done in, say, the SPHE and what have you. And I know there's a big pushback on that at the moment in relation to sex education in schools. Because not that people object to sex education schools or relationship education schools, but they object to some of the content that may be in it at the moment.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.